grew up in Waikiki when Waikiki was just a small beach. It was all full of canoes, and the beach was quite different then. We used to hang around down by the old Outrigger Canoe Club, and I was brought up by all the great old beach boys: Steamboat, Bumakua, Buckshot, Coco, Dookie, Rabbit, and Blackout, and all these wonderful people that took me under their arms. And we were on the beach one day and they're shooting Hawaiian Eye, and Troy Donahue couldn't surf. So Howard Horowitz, the producer, said, "Can you surf?" And I said, "Well, can I surf?" And I was 6'2". When we were on the beach. I was fourth in the world at that time, junior men. So I started surfing for Troy, and they said, "Why don't you come to the mainland and try to become an actor?" I said, "Well, how much money do you make a week?" He said, "I make $3,000. I said, $3,000? You know, and we were on the beach and we made 20, 30 bucks a day. And in those days, don't forget, you could get a plate lunch for 50 cents. And a couple of Primo beers. So if you made 10 bucks a day, it was wonderful times. So I tried to go up to Hollywood, and then I landed a job at the world famous Whiskey A Go-Go. I was a bouncer, and I parked cars there for a while. And it was just rock and roll at its heaviest. And women, oh my God, the women. Quite interesting days, let me tell you. They really were quite interesting days. I wanted to become an actor, you know, so I finally got in touch with Troy. And he helped me out a little bit. He introduced me to Dick Clayton. He had Al Pacino. He had Warren Beatty. And I think Dustin Hoffman, and he took me on, you know, took me on as an actor. You know, I didn't know anything about scripts, I was still talking pidgin. But Universal signed me and started doing the shows, Marcus Welby and Ironside and The Virginian and Name of the Game. The leading parts didn't really come my way. I didn't play doctors or lawyers, which was okay. You know, I was a guy from the beach, I was kind of tough. So I started playing these heavies. And it worked for me because I worked all the time. I did over 100 films during this time. Mostly played the bad guy, but interesting bad guys. I started getting the lead parts in the shows. Your agent calls you up and says, "How'd you like to go to Acapulco for 20 weeks and do James Bond and live in a penthouse, and I have a boat for you and a limousine to pick you up?" I'm like, "I like that." The best part was I traveled the whole world. I was in China, I was in the Philippines, I did some kickboxing movies. But the TV was so great in my life, from the Charlie's Angels to Jake and the Fat Man and MacGyver. And I got a TV series, Mike Hammer, with Stacy Keach, which was a great part because I was a captain of the police department. They called me and says, "We're going to do a thing on Gidget." And I said, "Oh, really?" They said, "Do you know how to surf?" I said, "Brah, do I know how to surf?" So I started doing the kahuna, and I got to hire all my old Beach Boy friends, and it was give them $100 a piece, and it was such a thrill for me to pass out those $100 bills to the guys, you know, to work for me on the show. And they said, "What's your favorite film?" My favorite part of myself is doing that amount of work. It all came together for me, and it was off in the beach. Big wave surfing, you have to enjoy, in a strange way, the violent part of it, because serious wipeouts is very, very serious. You got to really stay akamai, man. You got to stay smooth, you know. You got to underwater, you're going, "Oh, good," you know. You got to go, "All right, everything's cool, and you're just getting pounded in the dark. I was in a plane crash. We were doing 250 miles an hour, and we're up in the air shooting the close-ups at the Red Baron. I played Brown, supposedly had shot down the Red Baron. I was in an open cockpit, and the camera, this little Aries camera, was on the wing. And in the dailies, you could see the pilot's head. He was in the front, I was in the back. He had to lean way out, and a duck hit him in the head. And we crashed into this river, and it played like taking a stone and throwing it along the river, and spun like that. And the wings were coming off and all this. And I saw these big velvet curtains that said, "The End." And I was underwater, and I went, "Well, this is nothing more than being like at Makaha or Sunset Beach." And I took my parachute off and my seatbelt off underwater, and the plane was sinking. I was underwater, and I pulled the pilot up and held him by his head for 45 minutes. He was unconscious, and we made it. But it was nothing more than, I think, what saved my life was Makaha and those wonderful days of those big wipeouts like at Haleiwa, where you just said, "Okay, now here we go into this mood, man. You're gonna stay here." And that was one of my experiences of my acting experiences, where I came from and what I did from the beach. You know, all the great Hawaiians that brought me up. I was from the streets, and I learned some good ropes, man. And that's why Hawaii is such a wonderful, wonderful learning thing for the world. It's all working, and it's been a pleasure talking to you, Don. I really enjoyed this interview a lot. I hope I didn't talk too much. Thank you so much.